Thank you, Les. Good evening, and thank everyone for coming. I'm Barbara Silk, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's School Board Candidates Forum, hosted by the Merion Civic Association. I have lived in Merion since 1999, for those who don't know me, and my husband's family have lived in the house where we live since about 1959. I was reminded recently of what a wonderful community that we live in by a recent post in a community-oriented Facebook group where people post almost everything from asking for a plumber recommendation, finding a lost puppy, to a donation request for a family that lost everything in a fire. A man wrote how thankful he is to live in a place like this, where we are all here to help each other as neighbors and we all care so much about each other. Tonight is another example of our community bond. The purpose of this forum is to educate ourselves about the school board and the candidates before us who are willing to give their time and to work for our schools and our children. We are here as good neighbors to listen and learn with respect for the betterment of our community. There are 12 candidates vying for 4 positions on the Merion School Board. All 12 of the candidates were invited to attend this evening. 10 of those candidates joined us for tonight. 2 candidates, Debra and Milissa Gilbert, replied that they were unable to attend. To save as much time as possible for tonight's discussion, all 12 of the candidates were asked to provide biographical information and brief responses to a few questions in advance. Their responses have been compiled into a paper handout you should have received at the door and will serve as a formal introduction of the candidates. The handout is also available for download on the Facebook group called Candidate Forum, sponsored by MCA. Also on the Facebook group page will be a video of tonight's forum. We anticipate the video will be available for viewing within the next day or so. A few minutes ago, each candidate chose a sealed envelope containing a number between 1 and 10. That randomly selected number determined their seating position at the table here on the stage and the questions they will answer. I will direct the same number of questions to each candidate, with a pair of candidates in turn addressing each question. In addition, each candidate can join in up to 3 more times. With that noise, I would ask everyone to please turn off their cell phones or silence them, since I forgot to do that at the very beginning. So back to these instructions because they're a little bit complicated. I will direct the same number of questions to each candidate, with a pair of candidates in turn addressing each question. In addition, each candidate can join in up to 3 more times at their discretion. Candidates, if you want to jump in, hold up your index card like this to demonstrate that you wish to jump in when the prior answer is finishing. If more than one of you want to go, you will take turns left to right, starting immediately to the right of the second candidate I directed my question to. I know that sounds complicated, but we have some very, very smart people that are going to be in charge of that. Who goes next? And those on the stage, we will tell you when it's your turn. If you take a turn with your jump-in card, we will collect one of your index cards. You have 3. When you run out, you can't jump in anymore. I have 2 assistants to help me keep track of all of this. We expect to ask no fewer than 15 questions and no more than 20 questions, so plan your jump-ins accordingly. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions that I ask them. Those that join in by using your card will have 1.5 minutes. Candidates, our timekeeper, located here in the front, will signal you when you have 30 seconds remaining, and again when your time is up. You will be allowed to finish your sentence when your time is called, but do not go longer. I am known for being very bossy. We will conclude with closing remarks. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to speak at the end. As I said, in order to save time, there will be no formal introductions and no opening statements, though in a moment we will see who is who. Please review the candidates' information in the handout. Before we get going, the Forum Planning Committee would like to thank the Merion Tribute House for generously allowing us to use this space. Helen Guy, the Merion Civic Association Secretary, for her help with planning. She always does an amazing job with everything. Her logistics and communication with the candidates. And Mark, thank you for generously volunteering to tape the event for later viewing. The Planning Committee would also like to thank the Federation of Civics, the Wynwood Civic Association, the Neighborhood Club of Ballackinwood, Penwyn Civic Association, the Lower Merion Education Association, the Lower Merion School District, Beth Israel, Beth Am, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Beth David Mainline Reform, Beth Hillel for their help in promoting tonight's forum. So now we'll start. Out of respect for the candidates and the audience, please, no clapping, cheering, signs, or placards of any kind are allowed. Now, let's introduce the candidates. So if we would start at the end there, and if you would just stand up, please, and state your name, and then we'll go to the next candidate.
Unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck up here.
If you could just state your name, we're really...
My name is Milissa.
Short on time. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Meyer. I'm AJ Kait.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Brown.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tannia Schrieber.
Hi, I'm Ben Driscoll.
Spahr.
Hi, Laurie Actman.
Adrian Seltzer.
Hi, I'm David Yavil.
Thank you. Give them all a round of applause. As I said, tonight's forum is an educational event. In a moment, we will learn about the positions and qualifications of these 10 individuals who seek to become school directors of the Lower Merion School District. First, let me provide a brief description of the school director position. I recently learned this information, and it was astonishing to me, I must tell you. The Lower Merion School District Board oversees an organization with $250 million in annual revenue that must operate within the confines of a wide range of state and federal laws and regulations. The Board of Directors is the policy-making body of the district. The board selects the superintendent as the district's executive officer and delegates the responsibility for implementing its policies and priorities to the superintendent. In addition to the annual responsibility of adopting a balanced budget, other important functions of the board include educational planning and appraisal, staffing, the establishment and maintenance of the facilities and properties, and the provision of transportation for all of the students. Directors are volunteers and serve 4-year elected terms. Each month, directors are required to attend 2 meetings of the full board and then up to 8 possible subcommittee meetings. Typically, a director chairs 1 subcommittee and then is a member of 3 committees. The 8 subcommittees of the board of directors are communications, policy, curriculum, facilities and purchasing, finance, legislative, HR and personnel, and ad hoc legal. There is a lot to do. With that as a backdrop, we will begin with the first question. The first question will be asked of Milissa, Tadeo, and Harrison Meyer, with Milissa going first. Tadeo. Milissa Tadeo. In the past 5 years, U.S. News and World Report has routinely ranked Radnor and, is that Tedford? T.E. Tedford. I'm from Merion. High schools higher than Lower Merion and Harriton. Yet, these districts spend around $10,000 less per student than Lower Merion. What analysis have you done or do you think should be done to understand how these districts seemingly achieve better outcomes for less money? If you believe the difference is attributable to a certain spending category, what would you do to understand the difference? Milissa first.
Good evening, everyone. And that is a wonderful question, and it's actually the reason that I am running. I've been concerned about the increases in taxes over the past 10 years, and I've also been concerned about the reduced rankings that I see, not only in U.S. News and World Report, but also when I did some research on the Pennsylvania Department of Education's website. I feel a deep dive needs to happen. I'm only a candidate now. I have not been on the board, and the reason I want to be on the board is that I'll have access to the information that is not currently transparent and be able to ascertain exactly what categories are we not spending where we should be, what needs to be reallocated, and benchmarking. There's no reason that we shouldn't have contact with other school districts that are performing better and find out what they're doing and what makes them tick and doesn't make us tick. Thank you.
Harrison?
I think that we should be in greater contact with our neighboring school districts, and they're doing a lot of things very well that we could learn from, and it would be a mistake to ignore their successes. I also believe that we should be spending a lot less money on legal fees, for instance. And let me elaborate on that.
Please, no applaud, and thank you.
I appreciate your applause. Let's respect the rules of the... let me elaborate on that. What I mean is, that gets at a larger issue, which is what kind of a relationship should the board have, not just with the commissioners and other leaders in our community, but with the community generally. And I believe that we should have a collaborative relationship. We should not be so adversarial. And by our collaboration, by listening to people closely and entering into conversations and dialogues with them, we can avoid a lot of the, as one example, legal fees, as one example, political relations consultants, that is taking a non-trivial amount of our tax dollars. That being said, I think Radner and T do a lot of other things very well, and I agree with Milissa that we should look into that very closely. I have not done the analysis yet, I don't mind telling you, but I do know that they do very well, and they spend a lot less money per student, and I think that we should pay attention to that very closely. Thank you.
The people who are responding with their cards. Terry, would go first. I said these were complicated. Terry.
Okay.
Thank you all for attending. I think we've been shut out for over a decade with U.S. News and World Report in the top 10. And it can't continue that way. We have to do better. I actually did a deep dive into the Conestoga TE's school district and did a line item for every one of their line items and where they spent per pupil. If you'd like me to send it to you, I'm happy to. Just email me at terryspar@yahoo.com. It is something that is important to measure. If elected, I will pledge to immediately get together with the superintendent and the CFOs of those schools, Radner and TE, and understand very clearly how they do deliver a tremendous education to their children at an outstanding value to their homeowners.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone for being here, and to Merion and Civic for organizing this. I just wanted to provide a little context, perhaps, around the rankings. And one thing to know is those rankings are based on the number of students taking AP exams. And while we have a high number of students taking AP classes, we may have reasons why those students are choosing not to take the exams, such as they don't need to take those exams senior year, they're taking IB classes instead. And in past years, actually, our revenues were higher when the district paid for students to take the exams themselves. Now, families pay for that. So there's a lot of background and context to the rankings, and therefore, you have to take all of these rankings with a grain of salt. I just wanted to also emphasize, we do talk to our neighboring school districts all the time through organized forums like the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and informally, when we're looking to collaborate, see how they do things, see how we can do things based on how they're doing things. And I also wanted to say we are now regularly trying to meet with the township commissioners on an almost quarterly basis. We are in frequent dialogue with them. I think we strongly agree that more collaboration is really important, considering all the growth facing the district and the township. So I just wanted folks to know that's already going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, well, you won't catch me. I have plenty of problems, issues with the budget, and have plenty of advice for how they could be done better. I just wanted to kind of step back and caution about measuring what we're doing by numbers. We have over 8,000 little human beings, and our job is to take 13 years and help them become whoever it is that they're supposed to be when they grow up. And if we really believe that, if we truly believe that that is what we are, is that we're stewards of their creativity and their love of learning and their potential, then you have to agree that we can't chase the numbers, we can't chase the tests. And I believe that's what this community wants, is you want the recess time, you want the arts, you want the music, and if you want those things to be a priority, then you have to shift your thinking and stop asking where we measure when it comes to the numbers. They've chosen not to chase the numbers, they have chosen to stick to their guns and raise these little people to be who they're supposed to be when they grow up.
Anyone else on this question? Melissa?
Thank you. I just want to mention a couple things. I don't feel that we can be cavalier about the numbers. They're all tricky, there's all different measurements out there, but these numbers affect our real estate values, and they affect the types of education that our children are really getting. Can we attract the best teachers if we don't have good numbers? I served on the board of St. Joe's Prep. I was a trustee there, and I also served on the Villanova School of Business Advisory Council. Believe me, we know all the gyrations about what goes on with these numbers, but they are important. They are important as you go forward, and you can measure them all different types of ways, but I still feel that they have a purpose. They're not the be-all, end-all, but they have a purpose, and we need to pay attention to them, especially when our cost per student is higher. It's the highest in the state, as a matter of fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Brown, really quickly.
I'm going to speak out for teachers and kids. And the evidence is that our demographics, our student populations in our schools is shifting qualitatively as well as quantitatively. And I know this because I work with students every day. Not just here at Radnor and Merion, but I'm also working with students in community service projects. And students are actively engaged in our schools. They are highly productive and creative. And I am aware, if there are any physicists in the room, of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that to some extent measurements are a function of the measurement device. And I agree with what's been stated a few minutes ago, that quantitative analysis is one indicator. It's not the ultimate indicator. I agree with everything about the quality of the education. I'm very emotional. I have already indicated in the report that my 5 children went through Lower Merion schools, and I have to say I love Lower Merion School District and North Borough, and I think we're all here to get the best that we can for every child.
Thank you. Anyone else on that question?
much. So we will move to question number 2. AJ Kait and Mary Brown. AJ Kait going first. How should the school district deal with current overcrowding at the elementary schools, such as Penguin?
Another good question, and not an easy question, but I think it's something that has to be done at the system level, right? Demographics shift, people move here, they move there, and sometimes you have an unexpected shift into an area that's not prepared for it. But we're a big school district. We do have 8,000 people. We have a lot of schools and a lot of buildings. And there are ways to redistribute. There are ways to build temporary capacity. If people remember at Gladwin, how long I saw trailers out there for, what, a year, while they were building additional capacity to catch up with the demand. So there are lots of things you can do. The thing not to do is say, hey, that's where people showed up, it's your problem, we're going to jam everybody into the building, and not listen to you when you say it's too crowded, and not listen to you when you say we really don't want to give up our green space so that we can build an extra building. So simple answer is you got to look at it as a system. You've got to look at your district as a network and ask what is the best way to distribute people. And frankly, you have to offer parents and students the opportunity to be the folks who go to a different school, if that would help. And I think you'd be surprised if you just ask and collaborate with the people in the community that the problem may start to solve itself.
Mary Brown, next.
We were privileged, and I emphasize that, to attend the Penguin Civic Association meeting this week. And I was very impressed with the care and kindness and rigor of the research conducted by the Penguin community. It is a pressing issue. It's something that we need to discuss and dialogue and share in a non-adversarial approach. It's very important. My own kids have been at Kingwood, Merion, and Gladwin, and there are differences in what the child experience is at the various 6 elementary schools. And I think that by collaborating, by talking, by looking at Penguin, some of the Penguin people here, that we can come to harmony on a good solution. And of course, I credit the school board has published a very interesting document which we all received, suggesting various ideas and proposals. And I think that if we engage the community, we can come to some shared solution.
Thank you. Anyone else on that question? David? Yeah.
Well, I agree with some of the things that have been said. I think public meetings are absolutely necessary. Public participation must be a goal so that the public feels invested in whatever the township decides. We also have to focus on where the growth is going to be and be smart about that. The studies I've seen, and a lot of us have seen, it's going to be over 1,000 students in the next 10 years. It's going to be heavily focused on the middle and high schools, so you really need to focus on that. There's been a lot of discussion of a program that we've kind of termed Smart Choice, some of us, where maybe a voluntary program where some of the more crowded schools, parents can choose to voluntarily send their kids to the less crowded schools. But the very important thing that also must be discussed is how is this going to be paid for? And I think the community must have input on that. And that's one of the reasons that we're all here tonight, or at least a few of us are here, is what's been brought out recently with all the litigation and how things are going to be paid for. And it is critical that the community is involved and has a say in how it's paid for. It must be transparent. It can't be hidden. It can't be put in different funds and shifted around.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. I went through Penguin. My sister Josie went through Penguin, and my little brother is about to finish his 5th Technical difficulties. All right, there we go. I hope that won't be taken out of my time. That's all right. Keep it short. My little brother's about to finish. He's about to graduate from Penn, and I think that really is a good way to get at what's going on, which is that even though we're going to be facing a lot of enrollment growth over the next 10 years, where is it going to happen? It's not all going to be at the elementary school level, and yes, they're crowded, and we have to make sure that we deal with that without building on our fields. I think that is imperative, is that we do not take up any more green space, particularly at Penn. It's not just for the well-being of the students who use that during their free time and the recesses. It's also a good community space, and we don't want to take it away from the community. I do take David's point about financing this expansion and the ways that we deal with enrollment growth. A lot of other school districts around the country have dedicated funds for dealing with this, for updating their schools, for building new schools. We don't have that. We have a general fund instead, and that does definitely get in the way of transparency, and that's extremely important. We need to make sure that we know how our board is dealing with this. Another way to fund this might be bonds, which I think, if people understand the severity of the situation, I think people in our community would gladly finance the building of the school as a one-time payment. I think that's extremely reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Adrian? Okay.
Guess I should put the number in front of my name.
Thank you.
Today I did something that was very interesting. I went on Google Maps. They have a 3D feature. And I looked at all the elementary schools. And you could see how some schools had a lot more green space than others. Penguin Civic did a presentation also that illustrated that. And I think that Tanya's idea of the smart choice is definitely a way to go. The parents get to pick where their kids go, what experience they want for their children. It would also allow you not to have so much building. Also, the building is happening in the middle schools and the high schools. I think some things to consider, since population growth is cyclical. Why should we be building and selling? Why isn't there thinking about renting? We can move the administrators out of the administration building and put more classrooms there. And there's other ideas that I think that can be had to rent some space, and then this way we haven't built and then have to sell when the population will invariably go down.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let me just say, if there are some chairs here in the first couple rows, if anybody would like to have a chair instead of standing. Okay, question number 3, Ben Driscoll and Tannia Schrieber. Some have recently said, leading from this second question, have recently said the school board and the administration have not been sufficiently transparent. Do you agree with that criticism? And if so, what would you do to change the level of transparency? Ben, going first.
Well, thank you for the question. And I understand the issues of sufficient transparency, but we are transparent. And I know it's very hard to kind of understand that, but as pointed out by Barbara at the beginning, we have 8 committees, 2 regular board meetings, so we are meeting 12 to 15 hours every month, if not 20 hours every month. They're all public meetings. The night meetings Monday are broadcast, not broadcast, excuse me, they are saved on video for replay and download later. So the things that we've done to improve communication would be now sending out board updates, like minute meetings after the meeting, so you can get what happened at the meeting a couple of days later. I do understand, and we do want to be transparent. I do appreciate it when the public comes to the podium. And sometimes the comments aren't always that nice, but that's the job. You have to be willing to listen to comments, good and bad. But I do want to emphasize Everything we do is in the public domain. There's only a handful of things that we can do, litigation management being one, human resources being another, that can be done in what's called executive session. Every other decision, if you look for it, was discussed at a committee meeting and eventually voted on at a board meeting. So to improve transparency, we did talk about, should we be broadcasting these live? Well, that requires an upgrade of equipment at the DAO, which we thought would cost too much. We went to the township commissioners. How many people watch your meetings live? They didn't know, because we don't know who's watching your meetings. So we have to balance how much more transparency do you want versus how much of the cost that you won't be giving to educating our kids.
Thank you. And Tannia next.
Hi, as many here know, I've spent the last couple of years attending most of the general business meetings for the school board, and all of the, I think I missed one of the subcommittee facilities meetings. And I get it, I understand. Getting 3 minutes to state your piece after waiting 3.5 hours and then not even knowing you could get a response, it doesn't feel like a dialogue. I understand that they hear me, and I understand that they tell me things, but they don't make it easy for me to engage with them. And I can't look at what the school board does right now. I can say, yes, they're doing the best they know how to do, but as someone with a couple of decades in human resources experience, I understand what the difference is between really having people feel like they're engaged and participating. I understand what the difference would be if all the task forces that exist that are looking at recess issues or expansion issues, if they were given 20 minutes to make presentations at a school board meeting and the school directors would ask them questions about all of the efforts that they've put in. And I understand that if you offered parents in the community an opportunity to get together, brainstorm, work amongst themselves, and then work with the directors, it would feel like you're involved. And so far, that's just not what's happening. I've asked people, when I ask people, have you read the demographic reports? And they say, well, I can't find them. Well, have you looked on their website? Well, if I look on the board docs, it says 2014 is the last thing updated. Well, no, you have to click on the other tab, and the other tab. And people don't watch the videos that are posted. People can't find the demographic reports because they're not tabbed with the appropriate titles so that you can find them easily. There's so much further that we can go when it comes to making everyone here feel like they have an opportunity to collaborate with each other. If we went and got the 24,000 people in this community and gave them an opportunity to save this school district and come up with great ideas and innovate, I know you guys would come and work with the school district board, and that opportunity just doesn't exist yet.
Thank you. Anyone? Okay, David is using his card.
This is one of the reasons that I'm running, and that's the lack of transparency. It's not, their decision-making isn't necessarily out in the public. A lot of the decision-making occurs in subcommittee meetings when no one's available to attend at 8:30 in the morning during the week. Their decision-making in terms of the $55 million in surplus, that hasn't been transparent. A couple years ago, when the whole bus issue was boiling over, that wasn't transparent. The budgets they provide are so basic and vague that none of us can really delve into them and see what's actually being spent and what their actual costs are. And the excuse that, oh, well, they provide what the state minimum requires. Well, we aren't the state minimum. We're above that as a community. We should have excellent budgets that are detailed. There are other districts that provide more detailed budgets than ours. Why can't ours? We also need communications from the board that is not spin. I get the emails, because I'm a parent, and I get the emails from the board that they send out to all the parents, especially with this walk appeal and the dismissal. It was just a document full of spin. Be honest, be objective. I'm a lawyer, I can see it. It's obvious. I don't think you have to be a lawyer. I think you just need to read. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a response to that question? Okay. So next we have Adrian and Terry. Adrian Seltzer going first. As a director, as a school director, who do you view as your constituency, And how do you go about determining which policies they support? Adrian first.
Could you read that question again?
As a school director, who do you view as your constituency, and how do you go about determining which policies they support?
Well, that follows in with the transparency. We're a school, this is the school board of Lower Merion Township. Lower Merion Township residents and the children are our constituency. There has to be, I think this actually goes to communication. This really goes to the heart of communication. It wasn't until the lawsuit and that I got the first piece that Laurie held up, that first piece of communication from the school district, and I don't remember when. I've been to a couple meetings. It is really hard for you to get a response from the school board. Penguin put on this presentation. It was wonderful. Not a word. Nothing. They were ignored. The constituency has to come from engaging the community. As Tannia said, on the other side of the table here, as Tannia said, we have all these talented people in this community. I'm sure that a few of them could volunteer a few hours here and there to be able to help bring new ideas. The board's only 8 people. There's no way that everybody has all the answers. We need you guys to be involved too. That's how we find out what you want. So that communication, I mean, the township has like 19 different citizen commissions that they get feedback on.
Thank you. That's the end of your time. Thank you very much. And then Terry Spahr. Do you want me to read that again? Good. You're good.
No, that's a on-off switch. Turning it off over there. I think I understand the question. The stakeholders to me in our community are the students. They're the teachers, they're the administrators, and they're the homeowners. Each is different, each has different objectives, but all are important. And one of the things that I will do as a school board member is make sure that all constituencies are giving us good feedback. I believe in anonymous surveys. In the company I work for, we got tremendous value from the surveys that we gave to our employees and the survey that we gave to our agents. And that really helped us lead from ahead and to make really good decisions and good policy decisions. And that's what you mentioned on policies. I think it's critical to understand our mission. And for the board, if elected, my mission and my vision for the school district will be to provide an outstanding education to every student at a tremendous value to the homeowners. And every decision that comes out of that, as far as those stakeholders, will be based on that vision.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to respond to that question? Okay. Next is David Yavil and Laurie Actman. This is question number 5. How should the school district identify exceptional and underperforming teachers? And what should they do with that information? David Yavil first.
I think the school district should be doing evaluations of the teachers on a regular basis, use objective measures, and also subjective measures as well. If a teacher's underperforming, and there might be some constraints in the contract with the union as to what they could do, but we would be hopeful that you could send a teacher or ask a teacher to attend some type of training or programs that would assist them to perform better.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you for the question. So hopefully most of you have heard about our new strategic plan, All Forward, which we're really proud of, and I think is a great vision for the future of education in Lower Merion. So one of the key points in that strategic plan is professional learning. And so we are really committed to working on ways to do excellent professional learning among our educators, to have them train each other, to find the bright spots among teachers and classes within the district and leverage those in other ways throughout the district. So clearly, we care and have ways to evaluate teacher quality. I also think that based on the experience of my children and my own experience in the schools here, most of our teachers are incredible and very dedicated to the students. And we're incredibly lucky to have them in the classrooms. As much as we can talk about all these other issues and managing the district and the administration of it and how we engage stakeholders, which is all critically important, it's really what happens in the classrooms every day that influence and change our children. And my children come home every day influenced and changed and have incredible experiences because of their teachers and their peers and the way the schools are run. And that is something that this whole board and our superintendent is incredibly committed to. And I'm really proud of the teachers we have. So I think that's all I have to say about it.
Okay, thank you. So, yes?
At the risk of being
Mary Brown.
Hello? Okay, now it's fine. At the risk of sounding too progressive, the transformative curriculum of the All Forward is very interesting, and I see it as a step. In my experience with schools, and I have said before that I have children that I've been teaching for a number of years, I believe that the school curriculum is going to be evolving from a knowledge-based curriculum to a skills-based curriculum. And in order to anticipate, especially because we can see our demographics changing in the eastern end of Lower Merion, I'm suggesting that we can look at the high school experience a little more creatively and consider the reintroduction of the manual trades at the high school in a viable program. And I've worked on a program, I've designed a program, and I've been doing advice interviews for 5 years now, trying to pitch this concept that a student could study or pursue a manual trade, and both Harrod and Lower Merion or either, and earn a certification if we provide a more than basic curriculum for those students.
Thank you. So question, anyone else? We were talking about exceptional teachers performing. Anyone have commented on that? So I'm going to reread the question just so we stay on that. How should the school district identify exceptional and underperforming teachers?
No, that's okay. I want to respond to the last question. The last person comment.
Okay.
I heard, I'm not even sure who said it, but I heard code words that I know. Changing demographic and vocational. A demographic does not mean vocational. I'm sorry, this really upsets me. Every student is special and creative in their own way. And to say that we're getting more diverse, that means that we should have in vocational, and not those students shouldn't be set up to go to college either. I'm sorry, that is wrong.
Thank you. So question number 6 to Ben Driscoll and Terry Spahr. Under what conditions would you concede to not having equal programming and facilities at the schools? Ben first.
So, I would concede, as far as programming, I would be I can't imagine a scenario where I would concede the point on equal programming. What I mean by equal programming.
This is, just to be clear here, under what conditions would you concede to not having equal programming and facilities?
So I'd have to vote something, say, if we're going to allow something at this school but not at that school.
Yes.
So,
Can you clarify the question?
I will, okay, the
right, let me-
question that I am reading, and I just want to be clear because I had to clarify it myself. Under what conditions would you concede, if you were a board member, to not having equal programming and facilities at the schools?
okay, let me try to, let's just, as I understand it, the school district would have to, the school board would make a decision. We're going to allow a program or a curriculum issue at this school but not at that school. That's how I'm interpreting that question. So let me stick with curriculum first. I cannot imagine a scenario where I would allow that to happen. I think we have to have equal programming across our schools as much as we can. I can't think of any reason where we wouldn't, at least on the curricular level. We can, and this is something the school board just recently did with the middle school scheduling. They were slightly off between Bala Kingwood and Welsh Valley. We met, we had numerous meetings, talked to the faculty, and realigned the schedules so that the curriculums at both BC and Welsh Valley are now more aligned. The only program I can think of that is somewhat not aligned is the IB programs at Harriton, but that is for historical reasons. Before we had enrollment problems, we had an enrollment problem of getting kids to Harriton. So by putting the IB program there as a draw to get kids from the east to the west, that was a function of that. There will be conversations about bringing IB to Lower Merion High School. That will be very, very, very costly to do that. So it is available, which is why kids in the east can take a bus to the west. As far as facilities goes, there's only so much you can do. We already have somewhat unequal facilities. Lower Merion High School has a pool. Harriton does not. Harriton has lights on the field. Lower Merion does not. So to a certain extent, what can you do to balance? And I'm well aware of some concerns about how large are the green spaces. Well, those schools were built 50, 60 years ago. The green space is what it is. We can't make more at a certain school at this point. However, I think you want to make the educational opportunities best for all. And to the extent that you can do that in wherever the school you're at, which is why the curriculum would be balanced, I would support that.
Okay, thank you very much. And next is Terry Spahr to answer that question.
I was a little confused too by that question. I think sort of what Ben said I'm aligned with in the sense that I think we should strive with all our schools to provide a curriculum that is outstanding, and there may be some minor variations, as Ben was saying, with facilities or some of the specialization of some programs. My son, who attended Lower Merion briefly, took vocational classes out at Montgomery County. It was fantastic. And loved the fact that that opportunity was there for him. He had a blast with it, really enjoyed it. So I think that we have to have flexibility. We have to focus on our kids and what's important to them and how we can provide them the best education. And it means that there's programs that are offered at other campuses in the community, and then we need to look at how we can make that work for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to respond on that? Okay, question number 7, Mary Brown and Milissa Tadeo. Regardless of your view of the walk lawsuit, what have you learned from the lawsuit, and what, if anything, should the school district do differently? First, Mary Brown.
As a preface, we all completed the SurveyMonkey in silos separate, and it doesn't escape my notice that I'm the only one who answered yes regarding the walk suit, so I owe you an explanation. I have learned more about the way in which I am taxed and you are taxed through reading about the walk suit. The other is that at some point in the near future, I will probably be on a fixed income. Right now, I do have a source of income, but I'm not sure how long that will last. So I'm aware of people who are on fixed incomes. I'm also aware of single parents who are limited in their budget resources and young couples. So I'm interested in the walk-suit legally directed, consistent with the law, and I'm interested in our shared increase in information about the way we're taxed and how our tax monies are spent.
Thank you. And next is Melissa.
Thank you. What I take away from what I take away from this lawsuit. Oh, you're still on. What I take away from this lawsuit is that we have hundreds of thousands of dollars that we are paying to attorneys and a PR firm to issue communications on behalf of this district. I think that money is much better spent on the children and the educational programs that we have. I will support any legal outcome. I believe that we need to follow the law, and I really feel that I have the education and the knowledge and experience to be able to work within the confines of the law. We have been budgeting for surpluses, actually budgeting for deficit and incurring surpluses since Act 1 was initiated back in 2006. We are one of the few school districts in the state that are budgeting and, I would say, having results that are not necessarily in conformance with Act 1. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ben Driscoll first.
Like Jeopardy. So, I do need to respond to that because I do understand what you read in the opinion. However, the school district has done nothing illegal. I know some of you don't.
Please, we're asking everyone to be good neighbors. We're all doing our best.
If I can tell you why I feel that way. Well, I do understand what has happened at the lower court, at the Court of Common Pleas. We are at the appellate level. We are at the Commonwealth Court. And I want to emphasize, it's very important that that is what the checks and balances of America are. We have 3 levels of court systems, state level and the federal level, to double check to see if errors were made. If we believe the Commonwealth Court or the district courts at the federal level were always right, why would we have an appellate court? Why would we have a Supreme Court? We recognize the importance of having appellate level review to make sure things are done right. I need not go back to the presidential election 8-9 months ago. One of the major issues was getting to put a justice on the United States Supreme Court. If that is such a nothing job, then why was that such an issue for the presidency? I don't understand. So I do disagree that anything illegal was done. I understand what the opinion wrote and said was, and I get it. We are very, very hopeful and very confident that we will correct the record at the appellate level and clear the air once that chance is given to us.
Thank you. Now let me check who's next. Laurie? Thank you.
So, there's one point I really want to make, which is,
Talking into the microphone.
one of the reasons that he filed this lawsuit is he does not believe public school districts should meet anything above a bare minimum. So, you cannot support this lawsuit and believe in delivering an excellent public education in Lower Merion. And so that is something that is a long legacy of this community. It is something that we are committed to providing within reason. And so he's also basically challenging our right as a community to raise the money that we feel like we need to support our school system. And so I don't think anyone here wants our rights taken away to run our community the way we feel like it should be run. And so that's why every school district in the state is really concerned about this, because we have very little money coming in from the state or federal level. And if he is successful, it will be very hard for us to maintain the school quality that people here have been accustomed to, and it will be very hard to retain our real estate values of our homes. The other thing I just wanted to say is that, I don't know if folks remember this, but 2 years ago, the state did not pass their budget. And there were many school districts around the region who needed to borrow money at a high cost to cover their operating costs. And we were not one of those districts. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is David, and then...
Well, first, I think it's disingenuous to say that they haven't done anything wrong, because at this point, and Ben Driscoll's a lawyer and he's on the legal committee, it's the law of the case. The appeal's been dismissed. They're asking for an en banc hearing or for the Supreme Court to hear this, which is by far no guarantee. Under this leadership, which includes the two incumbents here, the appeal was dismissed for missing a filing deadline, which they claim was a strategy. I don't know if everyone really believes that. I'm very skeptical. And keeping the Whistler-Pearlstein law firm is another example of the poor decision-making and the leadership of this board and these incumbents. The lawsuit, as well as the many other lawsuits in this district, are just a symptom. They're the symptom of poor leadership, and it's time for a change.
Thank you. We have one more. I think there's a microphone.
Kevin Ziegler. So I'm definitely not a lawyer, but I think I can sense a lawyerly response or non-response to a question when I hear one. I was a soldier, and we used to say that if we heard an answer like that, you better check your boots because there's something smelly on them.
We're being good neighbors, so let's...
Well, I'm sorry, but certain people, it appears, have not been good neighbors. And this is a critical point, because you heard a lawyerly argument about the process in the legal system. But I think everybody in the room feels like there's something wrong here. If not absolute breaking of the law, skirting, manipulating, lack of transparency, or the appearance of it. And here's the crux of the issue. The role of the board is not to see how much of your money they can spend and then hide behind lawyers. They have a responsibility to represent all of the constituencies that my colleague down here, Terry, spoke to. Not just the people who want to spend a lot of money, right? But right now, we have a monopoly. We have a single party rule in this district, and we have a lot of people who think alike and believe the same things and drink the same Kool-Aid, and there is not a single representative of the taxpayer on the board. And that's why you have this problem. It's clear.
Thank you. Sorry. Anyone else wish to respond to this question? Thank you. We're going to question number 8, Laurie, Actman, and Harrison Meyer. If elected, what are your top 4 priorities for your 4-year term?
I think my first priority would hopefully be a successful outcome of some of our legal issues and regaining public trust in our management and leadership of stewarding Lower Merion schools, which we consider very important. Implementation of our strategic plan, we're already moving forward with some elements. I think it's transformative. There's a number of elements that I'm really excited about. And I think the fact that we're making progress despite all of our other pressures and issues is amazing. Obviously, managing our growth, we have some decisions to make. I did hold this up before, and I'll hold this up again. I think this document, which everyone in the district received, not just parents, lays out some of the pressures and options we're considering. So we want to work very closely with the community to solve, kind of decide what we're going to do in terms of managing our growth. And finally, community engagement. One of the big elements of the new strategic plan, and something I'm trying to do through the communications committee, is more stakeholder engagement from the community. So there's various ways we're trying to do that. We think we have a group of people here and in the region who are incredible and could bring a lot into the schools with the kids and the teachers. And also, there's incredible resources here that the kids do take advantage of, but I think we can do in a more strategic and systematic way. I think there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to, but also we're going to have to make some hard decisions, and I'm committed to doing that in a fair and balanced way for the entire district. Thank you.
Thank you. Harrison Meyer?
Yes, thank you for your question. Priorities. Well, starting with start time, I would like to change middle and high school start time for our students to after 8:30 in the morning. Research, and I assume that's where your enthusiasm comes from. It is a very important issue to me because it affects so many aspects of our students' lives. It's better for their academics. They will have less trouble with mental health, have fewer sports injuries. Teenage drivers statistically will crash less. So we're saving our students' lives when we do this. That's why it is not a trivial issue. That is my main issue. But I do have many others. I would also like to address the enrollment growth without building on our field, specifically in Penn Win, where I mentioned I grew up. I grew up actually right across the street from Penn Win, and my siblings all went there, as did I. It's a valuable community space, so we need to deal with enrollment growth without building on our fields. And I was fortunate to be at the Penn Win Civic Association meeting, where we went over a lot of options for how to do that. Furthermore, I'd like to deal with the achievement gap we have in our school system. We have a real problem going back a long time, treating minority students differently than white students in disciplinary issues, putting them into remedial classes, and there's a further lack of transparency in that process as well. Many parents would like to know exactly what's going on with their students and with their children, and who could blame them. They need to know why their children are being put into remedial classes unnecessarily, if that is the case. And one way I'd like to deal with that is by implementing ways to get out of this tracking system that we have so that students who are in remedial classes, every one of them will have the opportunity to succeed, the same opportunity given to other students who are not tracked that way. I'd also like to, I like the strategic plan, I like all four. I think we need to hold the goals of that. We need to put them out front, we need to make sure that we're meeting them, because I've talked with a lot of people, some of my volunteers especially, who have a big problem with the way that that some of the goals of the initiative are being implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else want to answer that question? Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry.
It's interesting when you're not a current board member. It's, you're sort of learning as you go, and I think it's important for any board member, whether they're new to the board or whether they've been on the board, to listen and to listen carefully to everyone and to absorb as much as you can. So, in my first 100 days, I will walk in every single school building and facility in our township. I will meet with each principal, and I will meet with the staff, and I will meet with the teachers. And I will listen to the parents and try and meet with them when I can as well. And really get my arms around all the issues that they each face, because they all have different issues, and we need to listen and hear them all to make good decisions. Secondly, I will provide my email and cell phone on the district website. I want to hear from you guys. I got 30 seconds here, so I'll get through this. It's important, and I want you also to know that I'll be responding to those emails and those calls that you give me. I think that's critical. I also feel that I like the start time idea. I'll take that one. I'm going to meet with our colleagues and the key people in Radnor and TE to really understand how they deliver a tremendous education to their students. I think that's critical on Strathaven and Unionville and Chatsworth. They all do a tremendous job. I got to stop.
Thank you. But your name comes up next for the next question, which also deals with time. Number 9, recently Unionville Chatsworth School District voted to switch to an 8 a.m. start time for high school. Would you support a similar move for Lower Merion School District? Why or why not? Ben Driscoll and then A.J. Kait.
As a matter of philosophy, absolutely. It's not a question of do I support moving the start times, because I do. So it's not the final goal. It's the details and the implementation of getting there that are the tricky issue. What I can comment on is the administration did send one of the administrators down to Washington, D.C. 2-3 weeks ago. They did a sleep study. And one of the messages that I heard, we'll get a more full report, was if you're going to do this, do it carefully. Because if you don't think of all the contingencies and the things that go wrong, kind of jumped in the pool and all of a sudden it's not working the way you want it to work. So I support the concept of it wholeheartedly. It's in our strategic plan to look at and implement if possible. It is the difficulties in making it happen. It is, do you need more buses? Do you have the finances to buy more buses? If you buy more buses, where do you park the buses? And it's those kinds of questions. If the other schools don't shift, you have to ask, how much earlier are we pulling our students out? How often to travel from here to another school district that hasn't moved its start time? These are not, I will be perfectly honest, not insurmountable questions, but they are questions that need to be addressed carefully and thoughtfully. We can talk about switching the elementary school with the high school. Well, you can do that, but then you have some issues of some parents who rely on the high school kids to be home when they're elementary first, so their elementary brothers and sisters can be watched after before mom and dad get home. Does that impact everyone? No, but I think if we're going to listen to everyone, we do have to listen to those people who have concerns about that. So conceptually, yes. Implementation, we need to work on it hard, and we need to work on it as a group with the rest of the districts around us, so at least we're all consistent on the sports issue.
Thank you. AJ?
Okay. A little bit out of my sweet spot, but this is a topic that came up in my professional career when I was at Campbell some years ago, and in one of the periodic leadership meetings, they brought in a guy who was a sleep expert. And we all kind of snickered a little and said, what's this all about? He made a compelling presentation that was meaningful to us as adult professionals. And the crux of his speech was that people really don't get enough sleep and it affects your whole life. And I kind of took it to heart and tried to work on it for myself, but the one thing he really called out is that teenagers need sleep and they're not on the same sleep cycle as adults and little kids. They are night owls. They want to go to bed at midnight and get up at like 10. And by pounding, the square peg into the round hole, by making them get up at 6 o'clock, it doesn't work real well for them. So I think the research bears out, and understanding the logistics and rearranging the entire district schedule for 8,000 people is tough. But I think the research bears out that if you can find a way to get your high schoolers a little later on the clock and more aligned with their natural sleep cycles, they do better in everything. So the simple answer is it's something that's really worth trying to figure out if and how we can get it done without too much radical disruption. And clearly other districts are starting to do it for the same reason.
So, question number 10. And we had a slight malfunction, so we're going to have 3 people answer on this question. And Tannia will go first. And Tannia will go first, and then Adrian, Seltzer, and then David. Do you believe Lower Merion School District is sufficiently fiscally responsible? Why or why not?
So my concerns are many. Let's see. First off, we've heard repeatedly from this current board that if they are not allowed to increase taxes above the cap, if they don't win this lawsuit, that it's going to be Donald Trump time, there's going to be academic program cuts. So it's not my concern, it's their concern. They're telling me that these 9 people can't figure out how to maintain our current academic excellence if they lose this lawsuit. So yeah, I'm concerned, because they told me to be concerned. So when I look at how they manage, we have a $250 million budget, and I wonder, okay, this is a daunting task and everything's complicated. So when we look at the decisions they make and how they work through them, there's trade-offs to be made, there's constraints. It's a huge amount of money, but we're getting a lot more kids. And as I said, we might not be able to get as much money as we need to keep the same amount per child. We have policies, for example, where we move the buildings. We build facilities where the kids appear instead of moving the kids where the facilities are. And I'm not talking about redistricting. Adrian mentioned the Smart Choice program that I've been talking about. That's where you take the kids that, and you offer their parents, you say, we're looking for volunteers. And we've asked the school district if they would entertain this idea, and they won't entertain it for this year, they refuse to even discuss it. But the idea was that you ask the parents, would you like to attend a neighboring school? If they say yes, then in the summertime, you look at what seats are open. And you decide what you need to do when it comes to the available pool of volunteers to shift children around to those open seats. There are open seats. In some cases, this would have eliminated classrooms growing. And it's an expansion of a program that already exists, the partner program, where parents who move after June 1st can automatically be routed to a different school. I'm saying instead of doing it, you invite the parents and see if that can reduce the facilities costs we have.
Thank you. And next we have Adrian Seltzer.
I have a degree in accounting, and I've looked at the budgets and the accounts. When we see the budget, we see a name and salaries, benefits, and other. If you go on the PA Department of Education website, their chart of accounts, which means how expenses are broken up, is 138 pages long. There is so much more detail that we can get. It is hard for me to say how fiscally responsible they are when there's no transparency. When you look at, I needed to file a Freedom of Information Act request to find out what the expenses were. That was 2 years ago. And what I got was an Excel spreadsheet that said expense, 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 expense with numbers on it. Why did I bother filing the Freedom of Information Act? That told me nothing. I also go by the standard of nobody likes to pay retail. Have we gone with Montgomery County and maybe even all of Southeast Pennsylvania to work with them so that we're buying at a cheaper price? I had to file another Freedom of Information Act to find out how much we were spending in legal fees. If you get a look on their budget, either the small one or the larger one, there's not one line there that says legal fees. And in 2015 to 16, there was over $900,000 spent in legal fees. And the really hard thing was $415,000 of that was spent for special needs kids, making it an adversarial process.
Thank you. And David.
Thanks, Adrian, you stole my thunder. Well, one of my expertise is litigation, so I do tend to focus on litigation here a lot for me, talking about that. I don't know how you can be considered fiscally responsible when you handle litigation with no budgets. The other night at the school board meeting, the school board specifically questioned, do they even have a budget for the appeal? The appeal, the dismissal of the appeal. And the answer was no, we'll look into that. Well, that's not really a very fiscally responsible thing to do, and it's not a very intelligent thing to do in my mind. And what does that signal to one of the largest law firms in Philadelphia? There's no budget. Every one of my cases has a budget, whether it's a $5,000 case or a $10 million case. There's a budget, there's an idea. It tells the public, what are we planning here? Why did they negotiate flat rates? I don't understand that. I've looked through some of these bills, they're insane. As Adrian pointed out, you got $415,000 in special ed litigation. I think there's no cost-benefit analysis going on here. And speaking to many, many special ed parents, there is nonsense litigation. And that's because of the policy that is being set forth by this board and these incumbents here. And that's litigation first, and that's not the way to be. That's not how we are as a community. And what does it do? It just causes more money. It's not good for us. And as my friend Adrian touched on here, poor budgeting, lack of transparency, lack of clarity. How can we even tell if they're being fiscally responsible? We need to be more efficient. As Terry pointed out, TE, Radner, they're being more efficient. We should be communicating with them more, and not just once a quarter. It should be intense, because we're not doing it. Thanks.
Thank you. Did some... AJ? Thank you.
So if the question is, do you think you're fiscally responsible, if you have to conclude the answer is no. And I've got a chart, I don't know if anyone can see it, but just today, I actually went and looked at the budget and the evil rankings of 15 or so top 20 schools. And I get the point, whether you're 12 or 13 or 20 or 2, subject to some judgment, but at least, Kevin, at least it establishes a peer that are roughly in the ballpark. And what I found, you see this big circle here, there's a cluster of 10 of these 15 schools that spend between $15,000 and $19,000 per student. They're all ranked in the top 20 with us. They deliver a similar product. There's another cluster of 3 that's actually ranked kind of high, and they spend, and this is I think 2015 numbers, sort of $23,000 to $27,000 per student. And then here are the 2 lower Merion schools over here. For whatever, good or bad, they are ranked a bit lower on the one I looked at. But the thing you can't argue with is we spend more than any of these others. And we spend more than any of these others and still manage to squirrel away $60 million. So the question is, where's the money going? How can you possibly spend that much more, $10,000 per student per year, to get the same education that the other districts are getting? It just can't possibly be responsible, and we've got to figure out where's all that money going? What are they doing with it?
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you. I did do some analysis, as much as I could find, and we've already talked about transparency. As a banker, I was just so angry when I saw the budget presentation itself. And then I went out to two different websites. I went out to Tradifferent's website to look at what kind of budget presentation did they put forward for the community so we could see. A lot more detail. They show when they're within the cap and when they're not. They show a history of their performance between budget and actual. And I will tell you, if I came up, I'm going to give you just a couple of numbers as a flavor, because if I did this, I'd be fired. In 2009 and 10, they budgeted for a projected deficit of $5 million, give or take. They ended up with a variance, a surplus of 15 million, which is 300% swing. 2014-15, a budget deficit of $7.5 million. They ended up with a surplus of 11.6 million, 155% swing. That's atrocious. That is just really poor fiscal management. And I can go on. The Auditor General thinks we ought to audit.
Melissa, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We do have to stick to it. Thank you. Anyone else for that question? Okay. Question number 11, Mary Brown and Laurie Actman. There are some seats for the people that are standing in the back. The first two rows have seats here. There are 3 official eligibility requirements for school directors. They must be a citizen, at least 18 years old, and a legal resident of the district for at least 1 year prior to election or appointment. Do you think it is important for school board directors also to have children attending district schools? Why or why not? Mary first.
I believe the school directors are representing us, and a requirement that a school director have a student currently in the school doesn't seem to benefit us as a community. I think that students and parents can learn about the schools in other ways. If there is a matrix of knowledge that one can associate with being a parent of a child or children in our schools, then that can be shared in other ways. So I wouldn't add that. I think more important would be one's devotion to the mission and philosophy of our school district, Merion and Robert Barrow, which hadn't been mentioned prior, and a willingness to work on behalf of all of the people in our township and in North Borough, again, towards those shared goals of transparency and proper use of funds.
Thank you. Laurie?
I think it's really important to have school directors who have kids in the schools. I think every day, not only are you extremely invested in the quality of the schools, the type of education we're delivering, you know, even our fiscal health, but I think it's really hard to be as close and as invested in what the schools are doing in terms of the services they're delivering to every child if you're actually not experiencing it yourself every day through your own children. I'm not sure it should be a requirement because I think there's plenty of people here who had kids who went through the schools and could bring skills and expertise that would be valuable to managing the school district, but I think it's a huge advantage when changes are made at the school, when I'm trying to get information. A lot of times I ask my kids, you know, how is this going? How is this new extra recess going? How is the schedule change at the middle school? What do you think about that? What are the things you really like about the program? What are the things that you don't like about the program? I think that having an in-house focus group, and I know it's it's not a scientific sample, but also the relationships you develop with the school and with the teachers and the administrators as a parent, not as a school board director, can really help inform your perspective and your experience in terms of the decisions you make and what's really important about the schools. So I'm not sure it should be an absolute requirement, but being close to the schools, having children who've gone through the schools, but I will say it's a huge advantage to being invested in what's happening. I'll also say being a school board director was a huge...
I'm sorry, just to finish your sentence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have two other people. Sorry to interrupt, but we're trying to get everybody.
Who's that?
Okay.
So you mentioned that one of the requirements to be a school board director is to be over 18 years old, and I'm happy to say that we just cleared that. But I think that really points to one of the many reasons that I'm running for school board, which is that I have a very good understanding of what's going on in our schools right now. Putting aside the fact that I have two other siblings currently in Lower Merion schools, I myself just got out of them. I saw the implementation of the strategic plan. I saw many other policies that have been recently implemented. But so I do have experience. I have experience also working with community leaders and student leaders, trying to get things done, like when I lobbied to change the start time, as an example. But let me tell you what experience I do not have, to be honest. I have no experience being sued for spying on students through their laptop cameras. I have no experience being sued for discriminating against minority students, and I have no experience being sued for overtaxing Lower Merion. That's just for the sake of honesty. I thought I would tell you what experience I have and don't. I hope you don't think it's too harsh. Thank you.
Tannia?
I think this was aimed at me. I have two sons that attend a private school for reasons that are personal. The public school, much to my dismay, I bought the house across the street from Penman Elementary. I'm the closest front door to Penman Elementary's front door, and then we realized it wasn't going to work. So I would say though, to say that I'm not invested in Penman Elementary, I think anyone in Penman would say that there are very few people who've been as passionately committed to that school or this school district as I am. Sometimes I'm alone at those meetings. I am literally the only person in the audience. My two nephews attend Penman Elementary, and anyone who knows my family knows that that's pretty much like my own kids. People may have their suspicions about what's in it for me. Like, am I trying to somehow spend the last 2 years making this a hobby for 10 hours a week so that I can save $200 in my taxes, maybe? I don't know. I mean, for some reason, I really, really have always cared about people development. I've always cared about training. I've always cared about helping people find their potential, and I feel that if you have been fortunate enough, as I have, to attend a public school and to attend a public high school, and then to get a scholarship to go to a great college, and then get another scholarship to go to a great MBA program, then you owe something, and you have to pay it forward. And you have to make sure that you provide that same opportunity for everybody else. And so, yeah, did I have to go and plunk out some tuition money to go somewhere else? Yes. Should that make people suspicious about my passion or my commitment to your children? I hope not.
Thank you. Anyone else on the... We are at... One more question.
Do I use it? My mother taught at Lower Merion back in the 60s. She was an English teacher in middle school. And as I mentioned, my son attended Lower Merion High School, and I believe strongly in an excellent public education for our kids. I am concerned when you look at politicians, judges, members of boards on nonprofits, they oftentimes must recuse themselves or remove themselves from decisions that are made when they have a financial interest in that decision or an immediate family member does. So I think from my experience, I think even the most disciplined school board member will have challenges in being very careful about what they're doing as far as the decisions they make when they have a child that's in the district. I do believe that diversity on the board is important. So, with Tanya's, background and children, and I think diversity is important. I think we just have to be very careful when you have a child in the school system, that when you're a board member, that you're careful about those decisions you make and recuse yourself if there is a financial interest there. Lastly, it's interesting, Lower Merion Township implemented a requirement that the township supervisor is a resident of the district. I think that may be something to consider for the school superintendent as well going in the future. I think having that superintendent in the school district, living here, knowing where the community is, where they can reach that person is important. And I think that's something that the board ought to consider as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak? Kevin, I think I've lost my... Okay, question number 12 for Harrison and Adrian. Do you believe future enrollment growth is a problem for the school district? And if so, how would you plan for it? Harrison?
Thank you. I think that everybody in this room understands, to some extent, the danger that increased enrollment poses to the quality of our education in Lower Merion. It is a real problem. We've already seen its effects at the elementary schools, particularly at Penn Wynn. Teachers have a harder time getting to know their students. Programs, resources are stretched thin, classroom sizes are expanded. And I don't think that we've had enough creative solutions to deal with that. There are a number of options that we should be exploring more rigorously. For instance, it was already mentioned several times, and I hope it will be several more, the Smart Choice program, particularly because elementary school enrollment growth will not continue to be a problem far into the future. It's important that if we can avoid it, we should not overbuild on a school so that in the future we're not paying down the mortgages on empty classrooms. And that doesn't seem like it will be a problem right now.
Next is Adrian.
I don't... Yes, that... Kevin, is that... Oh, can you hear me?
Adrian.
Thank you. I don't... Where are we on time? Did you catch that?
Do you believe future...
Yeah, the mic just cut out. I didn't finish.
I'm sorry.
No,
Detention.
No, leniency in this case. I was in the middle of talking about how we didn't want to be paying mortgages on empty classrooms in the future, which doesn't seem to many like a problem right now, but given the way that we expect enrollment growth to go in the future, it may very well be. So it's important to be cautious when it comes to going at least at the elementary school level. I think the best way to deal with this, aside from having voluntary transfer programs, so-called Smart Choice, for our parents in the community, is to look at building another middle school, because in middle school, the advantage of that is that it can take in grades from both below and above. It's much more flexible than trying to build another elementary or high school, and it gives us the flexibility that we will need in the future on the off chance that, I don't know, the current predictions for enrollment growth happen to be wrong. We know that that's never happened before, but it's important that we're prepared in the event that it does happen, and I think another middle school is something that we should explore in addition to the Smart Choice option. Thank you.
Adrian.
I got a question that was virtually the same earlier. If this one to someone else.
Okay, this was done by random. If you choose to skip, go to the next question.
Because I answered this, I actually answered this already.
Well, then let me talk about something else. Okay. I would like to address special needs. I think the school district has to stop with the adversarial standing with the community. I think that $415,000, if $400,000 of that was not spent, that tax increase this year would then go down to 2.8 instead of 2.99. I play with numbers. I think that each child is special and creative in their own way, I think that we have to identify when the kids first come in where their strengths and weaknesses are, so by the time they get to 3rd grade, there's not going to be something that we keep hearing about, which is called the achievement gap. And I think that there has to be, if we go with the comprehensive plan, that will take the achievement gap and decimate it. Because we're looking at each child individually, and we're not just putting them into one track or another. We're seeing where their strengths are. I am, 30 seconds, okay. You got me because I wasn't expecting to be able to go ad lib. My kids are grown, they're out of the school district. But just because my kids are grown and I don't have kids in the school district, that doesn't mean I don't talk to my neighbors. It doesn't mean that if I'm a school director, I can't go to an HSA meeting and go talk to the parents. It doesn't mean that I'm not.
Okay, thank you. So question 13, David and Tannia. How would you suggest the board foster better student, teacher, and parental feedback for the purpose of improving the school district? David?
Can you repeat the question, please? It's hard to hear the
Yes.
end.
How would you suggest the board foster better student, teacher, and parental feedback for the purpose of improving the school district? Better communication.
How would the board foster that?
How would you suggest the board foster improved communication between student, teacher, and parental feedback for the purpose of improving the school district?
Well, I think obviously the teachers have to be honest with all.
No, that's not the question. How would you suggest the board foster student, teacher, and parental feedback for the purpose of improving the school district?
Yeah. Well, maybe the board could create some type of committees for the parents to actually get involved, and so they can have groups together, and they, as a group, not just an HSA or an organization like that, but have more direct meetings with committees and groups, and therefore get the direct feedback. I'm sorry. Also, I mean, I think the teachers have to be open and honest with the parents, which I think for the most part they are, but I have had some experience, and I've spoken to parents, especially in the special ed arena, where the teachers, I think, are somewhat ambivalent to completely be honest about what's going on for fear of how they're treated. So I think that is part of the whole adversarial and this whole situation that's going on in special ed. And it's not just personal, it's not just me. I mean, I've spoken to many people about it, and you know, a lot of special ed parents that don't have issues, they don't understand it, and they just say special ed's great. But for the parents I've spoken to that do have problems, it needs to be addressed, and maybe more input from committees that would address those issues would be better.
Thank you. Next will be Tannia. Do you want me to read that question again? Reading it exactly. How would you suggest the board foster student, teacher, and parental feedback for the purpose of improving the school district?
Okay, I hope I have it right. David took a good chunk of my answer. I think that the school district, and the parents who are in it, if they have a child who fits in kind of the mold, the 80% who need typical services, then they're pretty content. But when a parent comes and says, I need to work to meet my child's needs, there's two parts of this. One is, if it's a special ed kid or a gifted kid, then they run into a wall of administrators and attorneys. So other thing is that the teachers, I'm not sure if they feel empowered. We hear so many things about how wonderful the teachers are, and so many parents would say, I'm so lucky I had this one particular teacher because they worked completely around the system. And this is the parents' observation. This is the parents' opinion. My teacher had to go out of her way to do this. They took their own time to do it. That's not fair to the teachers. That's not fair to the parents. It's certainly not fair to the kids. Going out of the way shouldn't be out of the way. We should figure out how to create structures where it is the norm that the teachers have the freedom and the latitude and the flexibility, and they have the ability to find the resources that those children need and meet them. When it comes to groups of parents working to better their own schools, when it comes to figuring out how they can add additional programs or after-school activities or whatever, the parents have to be allowed to be involved. When it comes to the HSAs, I know our HSA, well, you shouldn't limit the HSA's opportunities to collect information and get involved and get the parents committed in any way that they want to be committed. The principals, the administration, the board should be encouraging that type of activity. They should be encouraging that type of communication. They should be pulling that information, and when a group of parents comes up with a great idea at one school, that should be seen as a pilot to roll it out. When a teacher comes up with a great idea, that information should be shared and rolled out.
Thank you. Two parts. I didn't see who was first.
Who goes first? Stage right or stage left?
Listen. So one thing that I've learned after all the experience managing people and leading people throughout my career is that a good leader listens. And that can take a lot of forms. People call it management by walking around. I am not so arrogant, and I would hope that no one is so arrogant to think that they know all the answers. I promise if I make it to the directorship of this wonderful school system, that I will publish my email and I will publish my telephone number. Also, as a trustee at St. Joe's Prep, we all had a regular practice of auditing the classes, talking to the teachers, talking to the administrators, and meeting with students. And I think this is important. But they're not the only constituents. This should be all of our constituents. I also I feel it's important to get input from all parties. You can't make good, informed decisions if you don't have the right input. And also, it's circular. You need to provide feedback. Where are you on things? What is going on? You propose an idea. Well, we took that under advisement and we're going to submit it to the committee. It's a feedback loop. Thank you. I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll be brief because this is not rocket science. There's two pieces to this. The first is attitude. You have to really want feedback and signal to the folks you want feedback from that you're actually going to listen. And I think from what I hear and the people I talk to and the undercurrents I hear in the room, there's just too many stories about the walls going up and the lawyers going up and everything going up. There's too much of that not to conclude that this board right now does not want feedback. I don't know why. I have my suspicions, and if you look at some of the things they say, I think they believe they know better than any of us in this room, and they know better than the teachers, and they know better than the parents, and they know better than the students. I don't agree, but I got a sense that that's it. So, step one, you have to believe that you don't have all the answers, that you want feedback, and you have to signal that it's okay to give feedback. Two is you put in place mechanisms to get feedback, and there's lots and lots of practice and theory around this, 360 degrees. How about if the board members get reviewed themselves? How about if there's a standing committee of parents, teachers, and students who review the board? It's easy to send out a survey. It's easy to publish your phone number. It's easy to sit in a meeting and actually listen to people and indicate that you've heard them and maybe even talk to them. and we don't seem to get any of that. So, want to do it, and then do it.
I'm sorry, thank you. Laurie? And just, there are two more questions after this question.
So I just have to say that this board is incredibly committed to feedback through our meetings. We've had our superintendent do meetings all around the district. Many of us are constantly going to community meetings. We're meeting with our HSAs. We've scheduled special meetings to talk about our facilities in the schools at night so parents can get there. We've scheduled special meetings to talk about the change to the schedule, and we are very open to feedback. I am constantly getting emails and texts and calls, and sure, I'm happy to put my contact information on the website. One of the things we try to do is we have community comments, so everyone on the board can get access to the same queries for the public, so all of us know what's on people's minds. And it's really influential. We are listening. We want to know. We are meeting with lots of community stakeholders around our growth and all of the issues facing the district. So give us feedback about what we could do differently, but I just want the people in this room to know we're really committed to working with the community to find solutions. It's not always easy. We have business to get done in some of these meetings as well. So we can't always respond in real time to people's comments, partly because we want to think about them and be thoughtful, because the words we use are tracked and followed. So we don't make any decisions lightly, and we really care about what the community is saying and thinking, and we want the feedback. So I just had to say that.
Thank you. Question number 14. And this is going to Terry and AJ. What is the school district's obligation to seniors? For example, should tax increases be allowed to exceed growth in the cost of living? Why or why not? And Terry.
I don't think you all heard that. Sorry. What is your obligation to seniors, if I understand, based on the budget?
Yes, I'm going to read it again.
Speak out of that.
I will talk very close to it. What is the school district's obligation to seniors? For example, should tax increases be allowed to exceed growth in the cost of living? Why or why not?
You have to stay flexible as a board member, so it depends each year on your budget and what you need to do. I'll keep it short and sweet because it's getting to be a long night, but they're a constituent just like the students, the teachers, the parents, and everybody else, so they will be treated fairly and equally in my decision process.
Folks, this is why we have elections, right? We have lots of different interested parties whose interests don't always align 100%. Seniors are an interest group. They live here. They have their challenges. Students have their needs. Parents have their needs. People who do and don't have children. People who go to public schools. People who go to private schools. We are a polity of people with different and sometimes conflicting interests. That's why it's critical to have some voices on a board who do represent something different from just the students. And my sense is that right now we have 9-0 right now. And even the question, should you have children in the schools as a qualifying thing is absurd on its face when you think about the fact that we all need representation. So, the simple answer is we need people on the board who will consider the needs of the seniors versus all the other needs, and let the political process make sure that we have that.
Thank you.
Absolutely, we have this political process so that everybody can have their voice heard. I happen to think that everybody in our district can agree on this, which is that students will go out into the world in the future and they will make an impact and they will represent us. And so we need to make sure that they receive the best education possible for that reason. And while we need to take into consideration everyone's needs, and that's why we need a more open dialogue generally. Everyone can say this, that students are very important to us and that our children need to be allowed the opportunity to develop their talents and to go out and succeed, and we need to inspire them to do that. Now, I don't think that that gets in the way of listening to people. I think that is listening to people and what they want. I'll keep it brief as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have that question? Okay, so question number 15, Melissa and Ben. Here's the question. If you had to name what you think is the best thing about Lower Merion School District and the worst thing about Lower Merion School District, what would those be and why? Melissa and Ben. Melissa going first.
I think the best thing about Lower Merion School District is the reputation that we have for an excellent quality education. I would hate to see our numbers decline further. And that's what, it's all about the education of our children. I have a passion for education, always have had a passion for education. It's the only way, not the only way, but it's probably one of the most significant out of parental guidance that will propel our future and make the students valuable contributors to this great republic that we live in. The worst thing, as I said, would be the declining numbers. And that all ties in with fiscal responsibility and accountability. We need to address this issue. We need to address where we are with the cost per student, at the same time looking at what's really going on in the school system and comparing ourselves to our peers. That's very important. Something to me, when I hear about the lawsuit, about the pictures that were taken years ago, I was still working then and didn't have a lot of time to address these issues, but I was chagrined at what I heard. And then these lawsuits that came up again, reading these in the paper, I just think that we need more transparency, and I want to make a contribution to this board. I have the experience and the knowledge, and I feel I can bring value to this role. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the best thing about Lower Merion is easy. It is the students, beyond comparison. And I can give you a reference point of the last board meeting we had 2 weeks or so ago. The students from the middle school interdisciplinary programs came in, and they were gushing about how much they love the interdisciplinary program. So to watch our students be so enthralled with the things that we provide for them, and what they do with it and how they take it to heart, priceless. Beyond question, students are the best part. And by the way, the teachers and administrators are top-notch too, but I give the edge to the students. The worst thing I would say is the lawsuit. That's an easy one to say. That is the worst thing. Let's get rid of that thing and move forward and focus. But in addition to that, I will come, the other worst thing will be the enrollment growth, which I say because we have to deal with it. We have to address it. It'll be trade-offs from green space and modules. I think AJ said much earlier, be mindful of green space. Well, if you put up a modular or permanent, you by default have to take up green space. You can't have it both ways. So it is that trade-off that'll be difficult. However, that worst thing, I think, reminds us of what the best thing is. Our enrollment growth is happening because people are moving here. They're bringing their kids here. So when I hear this talk earlier today about we're slipping in the rankings, Somehow the 1,400 kids who showed up in the last 10 years didn't get that memo, and they showed up anyway. Our scores are strong, our kids are strong, and the extracurricular and co-curriculars that make them well-rounded human beings are strong. So the worst thing is the enrollment growth, but I think it's because the best thing is we have the best school district in the area.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to speak as the mother of 5 children who have successfully navigated their way through Lower Merion schools. I think my oldest started in 1976 and my youngest graduated in 2008. And my husband and I have had children at both high schools and both middle schools. So to me, the most important part and the strongest part of Lower Merion are the teachers. Because my children would not be where they are today without the consistent, loving, educated, and careful direction that they have received consistently through all the different schools they've experienced and through all those years. And I have direct experience now with seniors at Lower Merion and Harriton for senior projects, and I can see the wondrous respect in these students for their teachers and the staff who facilitate their love of learning, their development, and their creativity.
Thank you. Anyone else on that question? How many more questions are there? That was the last question.
The best thing about the school district is that I'm running for the school board. I just want to tell you that. The worst thing is that I'm not appointed. I'd love to start tomorrow.
All right. I agree the best thing about the school district is our students, but I would like to address in my last minute here. You already have my email and my phone number. I don't have to wait until I'm elected. Out there on the table is my business card with my name, phone number, and email address. You have questions for me? Please, I'll take them. I think the school district has to work with Harrisburg a little better. I know that's been a concern about vouchers. How many of you know about HB 97? HB 97 is in the House, and that has to do with vouchers. Please call your state representative and state senator and let them know that you oppose this. I have contact with the PA Department of Education already, and I'm asking them questions about budgeting. I think that transparency doesn't happen at an 8:30 a.m. meeting when everybody has to be at work. Like the teenagers, I go to bed at 2 o'clock and I'm up at 10. It's a little early for me too. And when you have...
minutes each. And we will start at the, we have by 11. So we're just, are they supposed to be speaking on the last subject they were thinking about? Okay, the judges have ruled.
So, the best thing I think about Lower Merion is that right now, as it currently exists, we offer an amazing opportunity for children to become whoever they want to be. We offer, as many people have said here, many great extracurricular activities. We have, we get to choose the best teachers. We have a budget that allows us to do whatever we want to do for our children and provide whatever we need them to have. The worst thing is whether or not we choose to do that. Are we choosing to provide what these children need? And are we willing to look at the changes that are coming our way? When we look at the fact that if we stand exactly where we are and say we want this school to look this school district to look exactly the way it does now in 2017, we want it to stay like this for the next 10, 20 years, we can't actually stay still. We can't dig in our heels and say that we're going to keep everything the same. Everything's changing around us. We have forces from the federal level, the state level. We have enrollment growth. There's so many things that are going to change our budget and the way we approach education. And I don't think, the worst thing is, I don't think that we're in a mindset to address that and change when the change needs to be made. And I think what scares me, what's the worst part, is how vulnerable that makes us.
Thank you. Can we start then with our closing remarks with starting at the other end? Melissa. 1.5 minutes per person.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your patience tonight. I just want to start out by saying that how many of you know that this is National Teachers Day? So I would like to give a shout out to all of our teachers in the audience and thank you for your hard work. As a mother, a grandmother, a career executive, and a taxpayer, accountability, common sense, and trust have served me well throughout my career. And I will continue these principles as your representative on the board. I've spent the past 40 years developing a proven track record from managing multi-million-dollar budgets and projects and serving on various boards. I have the leadership and decision-making skills needed to bring results and accountability to Lower Merion Township School Board. Our school system has been the gold standard, but I'm afraid I feel that that's declining, and I want to bring back this reputation and put the students and teachers first by addressing their needs, however, with limited resources. That's Economics 101. Far too long, Lower Merion School Board has been dominated by two like-minded members who are uninformed or closed-minded to value diversity of thought, to challenge the status quo, or to innovate for the future of our education, of our children. I will bring common sense
Thank you.
to the board, and thank you.
Thank you. Let me say that I am proud that I have not embarked upon for political purposes my own youth and energy. But let me say this: that in my campaign, I have many volunteers, and I'm very grateful to have them. And they know this better than anyone else. I don't pay them anything, of course, and I think that really points to what I'm doing here, which is I'm trying to give a voice to people, and I think that I am beginning, perhaps, to get at something in our community, which is that we need a new and a fresh perspective on our board. But that brings me to the reason I'm running, which is that for years, for more than a decade, it was drilled into my mind that what you did with yourself was that you learned, you entered to learn, and you went forth to serve. And that's really what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to serve my community. I'm trying to serve everybody in this room. And I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to provide the best possible public education for our district and for our students. Thank you.
I'll try to be brief. And you can read the resume in the handouts. Public education is one of the hallmarks of society. It's part of the glue that keeps us together. It's part of what prepares the great bulk of our citizens to be citizens, to be productive, to be educated, to be aware, to be participants in this great republic of ours. There's no question that we need a great education to do that. We are so lucky as a township because we can afford to be the best. We just need to make sure that we are the absolute best we can be, and that takes really, really good management, it takes creativity, it takes openness, it takes communication, it takes listening. Our former president, who many of you might suspect I didn't vote for, but he was fond of saying something that was exactly right, which is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So if you have concerns about some parts of what's going on in our district, you have to ask yourself the question, do I need to make a change in the composition of the board? And I'm here to argue my case that I would be the kind of change that we need.
Next Sunday, Merion football players and some Harrigan players are going to be staging a youth football clinic at Arnold Field. And this is the 10th year for this, and it is an illustration of how community forces can combine to produce something really wonderful. On that same day, there are students from at least 8 different schools in the main line who are going to show their original fashions and designs. And I bring this to your attention because the divisions that adults might see don't necessarily exist among young people today. There's probably more acceptance of differences among young people than perhaps, and I speak as someone, probably the oldest person sitting here, that older people might feel. And so I'm very optimistic about the opportunities which our school district can provide to Lower Merion Township residents and Narberth Borough residents. And I see that there are many aspects of optimism, points of optimism, as we work together to again achieve success for all of our students.
First of all, thank you all so much for sticking it out this long. Those seats can't be comfortable, and you all are going to be the crew that your neighbors all turn to and ask, what did they say? As an HR person, I've been watching you guys thinking, oh my gosh, these are the interviewers. You actually have to choose, you get to go back and report out who you think is going to be the best person for the job, or the best for. And to that end, I guess there's a few things that I wanted to say. As you look at the teams, think about who it is that you think would be most qualified. You have a whole pamphlet of our qualifications and our backgrounds. It's $250 million of an organization that's about to go through dramatic change. Which 4 people do you think have the skills to manage that change? Which ones have the values that match your values? Which ones do you think are going to be good stewards of this amazing gift that's been passed on to us and that's going to make sure that it's there for the next generation? I would hope that, and I think that I might be a useful member of that team, but I am very, very grateful that I've had the opportunity to engage in this discussion and learn so much from all of you. I came into this thinking, I just want to be heard finally. I just want to have a voice. And then I realized that the fact that I was saying that and I actually had to go through this experience to get to that position made me shift thinking and think, no, I want to make sure that everybody has a voice, that everybody gets to be involved. And that's what I want to do if I become a board member.
So, thank you. I just want to say on behalf of Milissa and Debra, who couldn't be here because they're on the team with Laurie and I, that there was a conflict we couldn't work out. So they regret being here. They really wanted to be here. What I want to talk about is, like, you know, we have challenges here in Lower Merion, and you've heard them. But despite those challenges, we as school board directors need the ability to analyze the issues, collect the data, and make the decisions that can never be 100% popular, but the ones that would be necessary that need to be made to keep the school district as strong as it is. I do want to comment that we've heard a lot of comments about what's going wrong here, that it's not perfect, and I regret that. But I want to comment that many times the fact that it's not perfect, it doesn't mean that it's failing. It still is an amazing school district given the enrollment numbers that we're seeing. To get through these issues, to get through the lawsuit, the enrollment growth, and the budget issues, given that the state government is contributing less and less to local school districts every year. The state used to give us around school districts 50% of the bill. Now we're down to 36%. So we're in the 40% of state contributions to local school districts in the nation. We have to make that up if you want to keep a strong school district. In closing, I just want to say thanks to Merion Civic for having this. I want to thank my fellow candidates for being here. And thank you for coming out and listening for 2.5 hours. Thank you very much.
You remaining folks are the rock stars, and I appreciate your care and your interest in our children and our community. It means a lot. Merion Civic Association, thank you. It took a lot of effort and cajoling to get those surveys done and printed. I know that's not easy, so thank you. And I appreciate the insight from a lot of you all. I thought I gained some knowledge tonight, which was very helpful, and I think we all did a very nice job up here informing each other and the audience, so thank you all up here on stage with me.
I also want to echo the thanks to you, to Merion Civic, to the fellow candidates. I mean, the school board elections are often ignored, and they're actually critically important. So I'm glad that there's competition for these seats. I'm glad there's a lot of interest, and I'm glad the community is asking questions about the future of the district and how we're going to manage it. I guess what I want to say is being on the school board is hard. By the time decisions get to us, they're only the hard decisions. So I echo Ben's comments that it's an amazing place. It shaped who I was, and it's why I'm back here with my children. But what we do is hard. Some people aren't going to like our decisions, but that's our job. And you should be evaluating who's going to bring an unbiased and balanced judgment and experience to that decision making. And I think that's really important for people to come in without agendas, to be willing to work with their colleagues and the administration to address the future and the growth and our challenges, or else nothing's going to get done. I will say this current school board hired a new superintendent who I think is a great leader. We launched a very ambitious strategic plan, which is starting to be implemented, and we've done a lot of work to manage our growth so far and are doing a lot more work with the community to do that. And so I would hate to see that progress be interrupted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm here because I love Lower Merion. It's like one of my kids. I wanted to be the best at everything. I'm the quintessential mom, and I will nag the bejeebers out of anyone who stands in the way of us achieving that excellence for everyone. No exceptions, and that's why you should vote for me. Every child that enters Lower Merion School District is brilliant and creative in their own way. That potential needs to be nurtured and valued. The strategic plan sets out to do that. There has to be consequences, though, if that plan is not followed, because it means a child was left behind. That is not acceptable, and that is why you should vote for me. The school district needs to stop making everything an adversarial process. It is cheaper and much more rewarding to work together, and that's why you should vote for me. The district needs to be more transparent and communicate better. We shouldn't need a lawsuit to inspire the district to communicate with its citizens, and that's why you should vote for me. The district has to work holistically. We need parental involvement. We need community involvement. We need your involvement. I don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. But we have so many brilliant people in this township who may have a few hours a month to share their ideas and expertise, like what is happening at the township. You are a resource that should not be wasted, and that's why you should vote for me, Adrian Seltzer.
I'm sorry, but we do have to.
On May 16th.
Thank you all. You've read the bios, or they're available for you, so I'm not going to go through my bio, but I am a 1993 graduate of Lower Merion. I grew up 4 houses away. My parents are here. They still live there. I used to clean this place on the weekends, after parties on Saturdays and Sundays. So that's why I love this place, but that's not why I'm running. I'm running because it's time for change. I think you've seen after 2.5 hours, my act's kind of getting old. But if nothing's going to change if you just elect the same people. You have to elect new people to get change and to get new ideas. And I think my background and my experiences have provided me with the ability to be a very good director. I've learned flexibility as a lawyer and critical thinking and cost-benefit analysis and negotiation and public speaking. All things I think are extremely beneficial to the board. I think I could help with the litigation, and we need to change how this litigation is being handled. No budgets, adversarial, it's gotta end. It's dragging down our community. It's jeopardizing our children's education. It's eventually going to affect our property values. It really will. So it's time for new thinking, and I ask you to vote for me. I ask you to vote for my running mate, Tannia Schrieber, vote for Adrian, and vote for Harrison. It's time for new change. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you to all the candidates for coming. We appreciate your thoughtful responses and that you took the time from your campaigns to participate tonight. Let's give these candidates another round. As a reminder, this forum will can be viewed on Facebook page within the next 2 days. Please share that information with your friends and neighbors who were not able to attend tonight. I hope you will all vote in the primary on May 16th and then in the general election in November. Thank you and have a good evening.